Hey kids, this is Pastor Brian. We've been reading through this wonderful book called The Promise of Life, a big story about God's law. And we just finished the first part, and we learned that Adam and Eve enjoyed life, a blessed life with God, and they would continue to enjoy life if they obeyed God's law. But Adam disobeyed. He believed the lies of Satan, the serpent, and so death came into the world. And Adam and Eve became slaves to sin. And part 2 is called The Promise of Life. And there are 3 scripture references that I'll read. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Genesis 12:3. That's God's promise to Abraham. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my rules. If a person does them, he shall live by them. I am the Lord. Leviticus 18:5. I will make my dwelling among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. And I will walk among you and will be your God, and you shall be my people. Leviticus 26, verses 11 and 12. All right, let's start part 2, the promise of life. A long time later, God made a great promise to a man named Abraham. He promised to defeat the curse and bring blessing again. God promised to bless Abraham and make his family into a great people. God promised to give this great people a new land to live in, a place that was full of life. God also promised that someone from Abraham's great family would bless all peoples and take away their curse. You see Abraham envisioning what the Lord's promising? All the nations would be blessed through Abraham's family. Look at this. This is a beautiful new land. Looks just like the Garden of Eden. And God had promised Abraham that his family would live in this new land, full of life. Adam's disobedience brought death into the world. But now, God was promising to bring life to the world again through Abraham's family. God kept his great promise to Abraham, and his family grew and grew into a great people named Israel. But before Israel was given life in their new land, they became slaves in a different land called Egypt. The Egyptians treated the Israelites very badly and even killed many of them. Israel needed to be rescued from their slavery and death before they could have life in their new land. And so, Israel cried out to God to set them free. Do you see this Egyptian taskmaster looking over the slaves of Israelites? And the Israelites chained up here as slaves, and they're crying out to God to set them free. God heard Israel's cry, and he remembered his great promise to Abraham to give his family a new land to live in, a place that was full of life. God raised up Moses to be Israel's leader to rescue them from Egypt. Moses led Israel out of slavery, through the Red Sea, and towards life in their new land. On the way to their new land, Israel stopped and camped around a big mountain called Sinai. At Mount Sinai, God came down and spoke with Moses and gave him the book of the law. Do you see Egypt over here? And God has saved his people Israel, Abraham's family, from Egypt by bringing them through the Red Sea. And their slave chains have fallen off, and they're celebrating. And Moses is here with the law that God gave him on Mount Sinai. In the book of the law, God promised that if Israel obeyed these laws, it would go well for them. They would have long life in their new land, and they would be blessed. Even the land itself would be full of life. See all this life? People are rejoicing. There's fruit. People are living in peace. But God also promised that if Israel disobeyed his laws, it would not go well for them. They would not live long in their new land, and they would be cursed. Even the land itself would be full of death. These laws promised life to Israel in their new land. You see, these two men are fighting. This man is worshiping a golden idol. This person's throwing another person off a roof. This person's dead on the ground. The land is full of death because of their disobedience. Best of all, God promised that if Israel obeyed his laws, he would come and live with them. These laws promised life, and not just any life, but blessed life with God. Blessed life with God is like the life that Adam and Eve enjoyed in the Garden of Eden. Israel did not have to climb up into heaven or travel far away to find God's law. Instead, God came down and gave Israel his law that promised them life. And these laws that promised life were not hard to obey. It is not hard to leave some of your harvest for those who are hungry. It is not hard to leave some olives hanging on your tree for the poor to eat. It is not hard to share your money with others. These laws that promised life were also good laws. It is a good thing to give a man back his coat at the end of the day so that he can stay warm. It is a good thing to be fair and not cheat people in the marketplace. It is a good thing to bring someone's wandering ox back to them. God's laws that promised life were not far away, they were not hard laws, and they were good laws. And that's the end of part 2. Part 3, the loss of life, coming up next.